episode 13 of The Horse of Course, the official podcast of Society Generale Valley Rugby Football Club, a sports club here in Hong Kong. It's great having you with us. I'm the host, Grant Busevell. I'm also the Chief Operations Officer of the club. Episode 13 is a very special one. We recorded it back in July. We went into the recording studio. It's an audio-only podcast. And we were joined by four very special members of the Valley Men's Premiership rugby side. Co-captain Rob Lennox, Martin Muller, Matthew Bell, Grant Kemp joined me to talk about a truly incredible challenge they are taking on next December. It's the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, in which 30 teams will attempt to row 3,000 miles across the North Atlantic. It's going to take at least 30 days. It's insane. It's monumental, and you're going to learn how they're going to take that on, how they're going to train, and all the challenges that lay ahead of them. And can Kempy give up the fags? This is a great episode. Please enjoy.
Nothing's going to prepare us for when we can't see land behind you and can't see land in front of you. The waves pick up, rain lashing down. That's going to be a moment where you're going to sit there and think, what the hell are we doing here?
We are going to row 3,000 miles across the Atlantic, starting in Spain and ending in the Caribbean.
I think it helps that we're great friends. And I think it helps that we've played sport together at a competitive level. The fact that you're under the gun and you're being challenged physically and mentally together is going to help us when we're training and when we're out there on the ocean trying to win this race.
I think being in Hong Kong is a massive advantage.
You know, we live on an island, 20 minutes in a cab and we're at our boat.
We don't have to organise weekends months in advance to go on a long road. I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to bond and to maintain training schedules and to put that extra mile in.
There will definitely be a heavy element of fear. I mean, let's not beat around the bush with that.
If we're not prepared and we don't do all the stuff to put ourselves in the right position, things can go really wrong out there.
It's unlike anything we would have experienced before. 30 days in a boat doing the same thing over and over again. We wouldn't have experienced anything like that.
And then on the other side of it, it's an opportunity to raise an enormous amount of money for a fantastic charity. And the charity we've chosen to support is Child Fund Pass It Back, and uses rugby as a vehicle to educate children from poor backgrounds.
The whole message that the charity drives, it was just a no-brainer for us to absolutely get on board with what they're doing.
I think being out there, being on the ocean, just you and your mates in a boat, that sort of camaraderie, that sort of team doesn't exist in many other places. You are out there and it's just you four against the ocean. And I really don't think you'll get that experience almost anywhere else in the world.
Okay, everybody, welcome to this special edition of The Horse of Course, episode 8, the official podcast of the Society Generale Valley Rugby Football Club. And this is a special episode because I'm being joined tonight in the studio by four big men, either current or very former or very current Premiership players for the men's rugby team. They've got an epic challenge ahead of them in about roughly 508 days, but who's counting? It's called the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, often known as the world's toughest row. They're in a team called East Rows West, and we are going to drill them tonight on this utter insanity. They are going to be rowing across the North Atlantic, 3,000 miles, about 4,500 kilometres, give or take. And so please welcome onto the show Mr. Martin Muller.
Hey, Grant. Thanks for having us.
Oh, hello, Martin. Rob Lennox.
Evening, Boozer.
Good man. And Matthew Bell.
How's it, Boozer?
Good, thank you. Grant Kemp.
Hello, Boozer.
Awesome. Now, actually, I was going to say that there's more than just rugby that unites you, and that is this insanity. It's going to unite you for the next, well, for the rest of your lives, I would suggest. So we're going to learn about this event, what it entails, operations, how you're going to deal with the training, the mental toughness,
the nutrition side of things, what you're expecting out of it. And I'm sure we'll have a lot more stories in about 538 days' time or something like that. But I think in context for our listeners, the Valley community, the Valley family, I just want to go around the circle and I'm going to ask you to reply with 6 things. So your name, your country of origin, your age, the position you play, seasons with Valley, and your weight. Okay, so Matthew.
Oosh. Loaded question.
Thanks, Boozer. Matthew Bell. I am 33, South African born. I play wing come centre.
Soon to be prop.
To the surprise of most people. Thanks, Robert. And I've played, this will be my 5th or 6th season for Valley. I'm starting to lose count. And currently weighing in at 97 kilos. Very surprising to everyone.
Okay, let's write that down. 97. That sounds a bit optimistic. Kempy.
Grant, Big Daddy Diesel Kemp. Currently weighing in. I've shed 7 kgs, 119.7. Official weight, weighed in not long ago with Rob.
Nude?
Close
Near
to
enough.
it, near enough. South African born, been in Hong Kong for, this is year number 5. And
Prop.
Tight head prop.
Good stuff.
Off the bench only.
That's also optimistic, isn't it? Okay, Rob.
Robert Lennox, 32 years old, looking 42 years old. Born in England. Playing, well, I used to play flanker. Now I play second row. Cheers, Valley. Going into my 4th season.
Still at lock.
Still at lock, yeah. I'm never leaving that now. You never go backwards. Never go backwards in the scrum, only forwards.
What are you tipping the scales at, Mr. Lennox?
Tipping the scales at 101 kilos.
Bullshit. All right.
Wow.
198 kgs, mate. I was there when you weighed in.
Oh, the truth comes out.
Don't you get me started, Kemp.
And sitting next to Rob, they're always together, arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, most of the time.
Hong
Marty.
Kong's favourite couple.
That's right.
Matt Rosley will enjoy that.
Give us your bio.
Martin Muller, South African. I play lock. This is now my 3rd season. Going into my 4th season of Valley. And what else do you want? My weight. My weight is 105/6. I haven't weighed in a
Okay,
in a
let's
while,
just add
but
these up there. We've got
probably a bit underweight for the second row.
And he also won the Curry Cup. He always tells people that as well.
And for the
Played for the
listeners out
Lions.
there,
Apparently.
Rob was in the army, by the way.
yeah, that's right. Captain of the army team.
Thanks for that.
All right, so we've got 432 kilos there, and the reason I asked that was just, there's going to be some questions from, your fans, your admirers, your supporters about the power to weight ratio that you're bringing to the game. Because, look, I didn't want to mention it this early in the podcast. I saw a team of 4 young Chinese girls. They did this challenge. Brought me to my knees, in fact. They didn't look like they could have rowed across Hong Kong Harbour, and the power to weight ratio must have been almost 0. And then I watched in tears today with Rob at Tom's office, 4 mums from Yorkshire in England, average age 47, with 2 kids each. A sensationally emotional crossing of the North Atlantic as well. It takes all sorts. So let's learn a little bit about the race. Who wants to start off and tell us a little bit about, at a high level, the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, the world's toughest row?
Yeah, thanks, Boozer. Bit of a challenge, obviously known as the world's toughest row. It's, as you mentioned earlier, a 3,000 nautical mile row, starting in the port of La Gomera, a Spanish island in the Canary Islands, and we row pretty dead straight 3,000 nautical miles to Nelson Harbour in Antigua. It's a completely unsupported row, so we carry everything with us from food to navigation equipment, communication equipment, all Kempy cigarettes.
Duty free.
and end up in Nelson Harbour and Antigua. That should the current record for that race done by the 4 oarsmen 2 years ago was about 31 and a half days. So we are, that's kind of the ballpark in terms of we're looking to be competitive. Whether we end up breaking a record or not is another story. But it's going to be 30 plus days on the ocean in essentially a floating bathtub, which is 8 meters by 2 meters. As you quite rightly put, there's quite a bit of weight there.
Have any of you ever rowed before?
Next question.
We're pretty good on an erg.
Is that going to count for much, though?
I was in Muiwo once, and I hired a canoe. I mean, does that count with my missus? But yeah, other than competitive rowing,
They still haven't found that canoe, by the way.
yeah.
I don't think they want to.
Yeah. Other than that, there's been a pretty basic from my side for sure.
Okay.
Going back to your question about if an erg actually makes any difference, from what we heard is that it doesn't really, because you're rowing for 30 days. It's 2 hours on, 2 hours off. You're never really on an erg for longer than that. So I don't know. I think you get a lot of your.
You've
fitness.
never been overweight, have you?
So how many teams? How many teams would normally participate in this event, and how many years has it been running?
So I'm not sure how long it's actually been the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge, but it's been building for the last few years. I think they had something like 30 odd teams last year, and due to the circumstances this year, our race is full early. I think it's about 35 teams competing, and that's anywhere from solos to pairs, trios, 4s and 5s. And a lot of those teams like us won't have rowed before. You get the odd few that have, and people have done it as a hobby. But largely it's people that are coming to this fairly fresh. That's got its advantages. There's no bad habits. We don't think we're rowing in the Olympics. We're not going to be feathering a blade or anything like that. But it's obviously something we're going to have to learn. And so I think we're all quite looking forward to that part of the challenge as well.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a moment. So I guess the burning question, why are you doing this? Blank stares.
Well, I think the answer is quite personal for each of us. There are some similarities in the answers we've given. I mean, it's one of the first things we did as a team was to sit down and try and understand each other and why we were drawn to this challenge. I think a commonality across the four of us, and I don't mean to speak to everyone, but it's just the challenge that it is, the physical and mental challenge. We are 4 people that like to push ourselves in sort of varying degrees, and the attractiveness of pushing yourself to the limit and doing something that most people in the world will never think about, let alone attempt, is very appealing.
Okay.
No, that is spot on.
Okay.
Spot on. No, I was just leaning
Yeah,
forward.
I'd echo that. And Hong Kong's an amazing place, and you come here and it can swallow you up a bit. And I think it provides us all with something to strive for, and something that's a bit bigger than each of us, and living for the weekend or whatever you want to call it. So that's something I think we all thought this would do. And the challenge and the learning experience, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. Yeah.
I mean, there's undeniable attraction to that. But had you thought of starting with like a half Ironman or something like that? Who's
already done that, mate?
Tick that box. Okay.
Me and Kemp the nice thing about the rowing is it's non-weight bearing.
Yeah, can you imagine Kempy doing a half Ironman?
Yeah, maybe a quarter.
My knees, mate.
Maybe a cheeky quarter. Whose actual idea was it, and how did it come about, and then how did you rope the others in?
I'll take this. We're actually on a WhatsApp group together, and one of our mates, Adam Ralston, is obviously also a big Valley lad. He mentioned that one of his mates was looking at doing it, and one of us, I think, just offhand said, "Oh, we should do that," and it sort of just it kicked on from there within a few hours, and we were all psyched up, and then we made a WhatsApp group and we decided we're doing this.
Yeah. And then you sort of paid the deposit. There's an entry fee, I assume.
Matt Bell paid the deposit.
Bingo.
Morgan.
Absolute stitcher.
Won't be getting that
But
back.
it's 100% that. Also, Boozer, I'm sure you know already, Rob's got friends back home that have done it as well. So when we came up with the idea, obviously you click into it and then you actually realize, holy shit, I actually have to row across the Atlantic, which was a shock to the system. But yeah, it's 100% on that WhatsApp group, and it's just said, yep, who wants to row across the Atlantic? And unfortunately for Alan Day, he wasn't online at that time, and 4 of us went, yep, I'm keen, and that was the end of that.
He got kicked off the WhatsApp chat.
Yeah, Kempy's mentioned there, I had some friends, 3 guys I knew, and a guy I didn't, but their 4th teammate did it they won it last year. And when we first talked about it, it was quite good. Big thank you to Fortitude 4, as their team was called, for, first of all, talking to us. We set up some Zoom calls, and they sort of explained some bits and bobs to us and what an undertaking it was, which was great. It made it a lot more real, and also gave us an idea of what the undertaking was, and also have sold us their boat, which, you know,
A key piece of equipment for rowing across the Atlantic.
apparently.
Yeah, well, it's done it, but it knows the way, doesn't it? It's in the bones. What's the general reaction you've been getting from people, friends, family, your Valley teammates, and so on and so forth about this massive challenge?
I'd say you get a pretty big split, and it's fairly weighted towards you're a bunch of idiots. What the hell were you thinking? And then you get about, I don't know, 10-15% of people who go, that sounds amazing. Please, can I have a spot if someone drops out? I think we've got about 20 people on the reserve list at this point.
Yeah, I mean, the first people I told were the folks. Yeah, you realize you're going to be sort of incommunicado for 30 plus days in the middle of the Atlantic. I'm sure Mum's going to have a few stresses during that time. So I wanted to run it by them, and I think they just dismissed me as a crack brain scheme, and it'll amount to nothing, and they can listen to me talk about it for 10 minutes, and they won't have to hear about it again. Much to their dismay, we've actually got a bit of momentum behind us.
Yeah, well, that piles the pressure on, doesn't it? Once you make those bold claims to see it through. And there's a charity element to it as well. You're raising money for a good cause. Who wants to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so, well, firstly, because we linked with, obviously, with the rugby, I think we all decided that it would be key that it's obviously Asia-based, which is very important to us. We want to give back to the communities around us, and then as well as the fact that we're all linked through rugby. There's 3 South Africans, so the South African flag will be very, very big on the boat, and then there's
Causing drag.
So yeah, but generally the link was rugby, so that was key, and then the other part was also we're in Asia, so we went with Child Fund Pass It Back. They are a Asia-based charity that do work through rugby clinics in and around Asia. So yeah, that was the charity, and yeah, we've had a few Zoom calls with them as well. They're on board, and soon we'll be starting to raise money. So yeah, that's pretty much the charity aspect, and we're hoping, and I'm going to put a figure out there, so we semi-held to it, we will hopefully raise over 1 million Hong Kong dollars. So yeah,
wow,
that's about it.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, Matthew, isn't it?
Yeah, we got high aspirations. I think there's a great community in Hong Kong and globally. We obviously connected, back in the UK, back in South Africa, and yeah, we're fortunate to have this generous network. So I think we should be able to hit that target and hopefully exceed it. Just to add to what Grant said, one of the factors that attracted us to the charity as well, beyond the fact that they are rugby based, is a lot of what they do and how they do it. They use rugby as a medium in their clinics in Southeast Asia to educate disadvantaged and underprivileged communities about gender equality, domestic violence, hygiene, nutrition, and really uplift a lot of the youth in those areas. Specifically, they target, from an employment perspective, they train and employ coaches in the later teens and early 20s, and then their education they use those coaches to implement the program, ideally targeting kids from the sort of tween stage and a little bit younger. So it's a great message that they're sending. It's incredibly well organized, very efficiently run, and there's measurable impact to what they're doing. So really appealing for us.
Yeah, I know a little bit about them as well. They brought a team of girls over from Laos, under 16s last year. They were all from villages, and the idea is that they are putting rugby into the villages, teaches them independence, teaches them sort of physical confidence, all that sort of stuff. And I was involved with that. It was great. It was very rewarding seeing, what it meant to those girls. And they're in their own right. They're good rugby players now. So do you have aspirations to get involved with any of the programs that, Pass It Back are implementing around the region?
Yeah, look, I think obviously we don't want to just be bystanders to this charity that raise some money, throw a check down the post, and that's us. There are some very accessible programs that they run in Vietnam, hop and a skip from here, Philippines. So obviously, as things progress and as clinics come up, we'd obviously like to pop over and spend some time there, impart what little knowledge we have where we can, and get involved. I think it often can be quite easy just to write the check, so to speak, but we're definitely keen to get involved on a personal level.
It's a great cause, great charity, and on the end of this podcast, we'll put up the links where you can get involved and follow the boys as they work towards the kickoff in December next year. Okay, Kempy, someone's died on this race. Kempy, are you scared?
Well, considering the first 20 days I'm going to be locked in the cabin, I'll be very safe. I'll have food, water, make sure that the phones are charged. No, but on a serious note, 100% booze. I'm shit scared of dying, to be fair. so, I mean, there's no two ways about it. Look, it's dangerous, right? When you think about the ocean, a lot of us have and myself included, I still need to realize that I'm actually going to be in the middle of nowhere with just the sea around me, big waves coming over. That's the big stress for me. I wouldn't consider myself an ocean goer at all. I keep it very, very simple, knee deep, Sheko back beach, and that's pretty much it. But 100% on a serious note, I am scared.
Look at it. Well, you're from the Highveld, aren't you?
Cape Town, actually.
Oh, okay.
Extra soft.
Water's too cold there, no one swims anyway.
Let's talk about the boat then. Let's start ticking some of these items off. There's obviously a lot of logistics. The boat. Tell us about the boat. You've just mentioned before you've bought one secondhand. I don't know. Is that wise? What's the story with the boat? Do you have to pick it up? Does it get sent to Hong Kong? How do you train in it? And tell us about the boat itself. What's on the boat?
The boat was made especially for Fortitude 4. My mates had it made by Rannoch Adventure, who are the primo ocean rowing boat maker in the world. It's Bellos said it looks a bit like a giant bathtub. It's got a cabin either end, which is about 6 foot long, which means it's too short for at least 2 of us, maybe 3 of us. Bellos has got loads of room.
I'm fine.
Not
often I'm the smallest guy in the team.
No one said smallest, just shortest. So it's made specially for them, and they've done one crossing. They had it, they really dug into the fine details and had everything made lightweight and perfectly sort of styled and all this sort of stuff. So we know it's a good bit of kit. And it's actually doing another crossing this year if all things go to plan. So we'll kind of have it third hand, but
all right, slow down, mate. Don't get. We got a third-hand boat.
Yeah, well,
Class.
it's all we can afford.
It's the green initiative, isn't it? The recycling.
Anyway, so yeah, it's a good bit of kit, and this thing will, once it finishes the race in at the end of this year or beginning of next year, we will have it fully serviced, all the kit checked, all the bits and bobs done that need to be done by Rannoch Adventure, and then we will have it shipped out to us in Hong Kong. The guy Charlie Pitcher, who owns that company, assures me he's done it before. So we're apparently not trailblazing. I'd like to think we are. But yeah, so we'll have it shipped out to us by April next year, and that gives us a decent amount of time to get to learn how to operate it, how to live on it, how to administrate ourselves, how to go out. You know, we need to get out on the water for 3-4 days at a time to understand how these little things work, to understand how the little things work, how we each do our roles, how we clean the hull when we're going along, how we hunker down if there's bad weather, how we do our ablutions, so to speak, which I know Kempy's very concerned about.
Let's get to that soon.
I mean, for heaven's sake.
The stage fright,
Privacy,
apparently. Yeah, not going to be a lot of privacy. Yeah, so that's our boat, the R45. And we're yet to decide what to call it when it comes to us.
Should we run a competition?
Well, that's something we've talked about. We've talked about running a competition. At the moment, the best we can come up with is Bitey McBite Boat.
To boat.
Mainly because Rob Lennox bites at every little jab we throw in the water.
There's now nothing I can say that isn't a bite.
That might be useful when you run out of food, though.
Yeah, so that's our boat. You know, we got to learn how to operate all the gear. We got to learn all the navigation works, all the electronics. How we just generally how to survive at sea. And
what can I ask? Is what does a boat like that set you back? I mean, second hand. A range.
I mean, emphasize the second hand.
Give us a range.
Yeah, look, third hand.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive pieces of equipment that, you know, they're custom built. And obviously there are modifications you can do. There's a whole lot of extras that you can throw in there, navigation and stuff. So, you know, first build, custom built can cost anywhere in the range from sort of 80 to 100,000 pounds. Because we third hand, as you pointed out, we've managed to purchase our boat for just north of £60,000. So yeah, it's a massive outlay. You know, the commitment that we've had to undertake is not only physical, mental, and what we're pushing ourselves to do, but it is a very expensive race. So yeah, this things we've got to consider, and you know, we're obviously looking at sponsorships alongside our charity that we'll also be attacking and approaching over the next 18 months.
I guess the boat is probably your foremost concern in terms of getting something that's going to be able to go 3,000 miles. I suppose you can sell this thing at the end of its third tour as well to fetch a little bit back on the investment.
It looked lovely at your place at Tung Chung.
Well, me and my family are thinking of beating your time in 2023.
Maybe the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club will buy it from us.
Yeah, but Boozer, on a serious note though, like you said, I mean, we all laughed at the green element of it, but the real thing is, what do you actually do with a cross-ocean rowing boat for 4 people when you spend this money on it? And one of the things we're doing is, hopefully, you know, someone out there will be like, you know, I'm going to do that as well. And there's no pier that we can crash it into, really, other than at the beginning and the end. So we'll pass the boat on and then resell it exactly as you say. I mean, it can go across the ocean 500 times as long as it's kept in good nick. And yeah, we'll definitely recoup some funds, raise money for our charity as well. And so the boat will be reused. It won't just be a, you know, £50,000 piece of ornament at the end of that.
Hopefully, if it's a dual winner, then it becomes a collector's item, so you can sell it for more than you bought it for.
Oh, say no more, Maras.
I'm not worried about you crashing into anything in the North Atlantic. I'm more worried about the Hong Kong harbour. Well, I was wondering if the Happy Valley Bar and Grill might be able to sort of put it up, you know, if
mounted on the wall.
That's right.
Well, they've got plenty of space for it.
That's right. Yeah, with all the other trophies. Fantastic. So let's talk about some of the kit on there and what you're allowed on there. So if I'm correct, there's a sort of a checklist of requirements, things you have to have on board, and then a bunch of discretionary stuff. What sort of items need to be on that list? I mean, if you exclude the food and nutrition and all that sort of stuff, what kind of items must you have to participate?
Okay, so when you get to La Gomera, when you go off to do the race, all your kit is inspected. The race organisers are pretty strict about all your safety gear, all your communication stuff has to be right, the navigation equipment has to be right. Like I said, the safety gear, you've got to have a certain amount of food or a certain amount of calories to cover you through the race. Emergency rations that you're not supposed to touch. You're supposed to have those with you when you get there, which, looking across the table at Kempe, doesn't seem that likely.
We're not in the army, mate. We're not rationing each other. We need to be fully stocked up, fit as can be, fully energized, Robert.
This thing's going to be under the water.
Did you know what fit as can be is?
So all of that sort of stuff is checked. You've got your power anchor, you've got all those sort of bits and bobs. There's probably a million different bits of kit that you have on there. Spares for everything. All the things that keep you lashed to the boat. So anytime you're out of a cabin, you are clipped onto this thing so that no one can push you overboard and lost forever in international waters.
I heard Kempe saying he planned to be on the lash all the time.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Discretionary items, Boozer, would be Belos's jewel, Kempe's cigarettes, Martin's PlayStation.
And Rob, nothing interesting.
Just on that, from a safety perspective, you asked Grant earlier what the fears and the scares are. On this race, on this checklist that the organisers have, are a whole bunch of navigation and safety equipment, things like EPIRBs, which are automated radar beacons. There's satellite phones, two-wave radios. You've got radar. There is a whole lot of safety equipment that you're having on board. Obviously, on the road, things will break. There are going to be repairs needed, so you're covering spare oars, the rails that you'll have to repair, nuts and bolts, obviously all the tools that come across with that. From a food perspective, I stand corrected here, but I think we have to carry at a minimum, outside of our safety rations, I think it's 60 calories per day per kilogram of weight per person. And then obviously there's a safety rations that the organizers put in place that if you end without those safety rations, you're immediately disqualified. And then there are obviously some personal items we will take, speakers, maybe, obviously some iPods and things to try and keep us occupied. One of the biggest
Discmans. Someone make a mixtape.
Kempe's just going to take his iPhone so he can speak to Steph the whole way there.
We're just listening to Harry Potter on repeat the whole way. So
absolutely not.
I am excited.
Yes, but I mean, it's a pretty heavy checklist. It's something that we haven't looked in a huge great detail at the moment. There's a few pressing priorities that we're dealing with at the moment, but that is certainly something we're going to have to look at and really come to terms with. I think, as Rob said, the training that we're going to have to do and the time spent on the boat is really going to clarify what we need and how we go about things and where we can streamline certain things or where we need to take extra just in case. So that's all going to be a learning process as this whole undertaking is going to be.
And I guess there's so many sort of technical bits and pieces to the jigsaw. You'll sort of divide up the knowledge there, so at least maybe two of you understand any one. You can't all know everything. It's going to be a long list of sort of roles and responsibilities. I guess that will come over time.
Yeah, basically Kempe's in charge of beers and that's it.
No, but you're 100% right. So we try to put it in vertical so certain people will manage certain things. I don't want to give our strategy away here, but
no way.
We're going to have a land-based professional. He's not a professional yet. We're training him up. He will have screens and make sure that we're actually rowing in the right direction, firstly. And, and secondly, so certain people are taking care of certain things. We thought since, I don't think it's been mentioned, Rob was in the military, that he could look at the navigational side. Martin is taking care of the nutrition. I'm taking care of the charity. And
Bellos is
money.
Yeah, but
We're playing to our strengths, really.
But yeah, that's exactly it. We try to split it up so we can all handle something. But generally, we hope. Yeah, the navigation is a massive part of it, Boozer. That's probably the key thing. So yeah.
So,
East,
no pressure. Right?
Rose, West.
Navigation's in the name.
Sold.
Well, we've all seen Dumb and Dumber, where he falls asleep and turns around and heads all the way back away from Colorado.
That's why Kempy's not in charge of navigation.
I couldn't even find the building today, so
with Google Maps. Let's talk about life on the boat then, and maybe start with nutrition, Martin. What does the food look like? I mean, I'm sure you're not going to be dialing up biltong chief and carrying a whole stack of boerewors and biltong the whole way. What does food look like? Just for the first week. Food and drink, how does it work?
As much as we'd love to have biltong on the boat, it's sort of all your dehydrated stuff. It's bit of savoury, bit of sweet. From what we discussed with Rob's mates, once again, it was you don't really want to overdo it on the sugar side of things, because you actually just get sugar fatigue. So, but it's
I've never ever had sugar fatigue in my life. Okay, let's just get that clear. Candies, Twix, please, come on.
Give me another Jingtao. Light.
As I said, a lot of dehydrated stuff. Sort of just trying to get as many calories in as possible. We're going to be burning in excess of sort of 7,000-8,000 calories a day. So you just want to get in as much as possible. It is something we still need to look into, and it's something we still need to look into where we're sourcing it from. But that is something for a little bit down the road.
Can you cook? Is there any warm meals, or is it all just water-infested cornflakes?
No, there will be no cooked food on the boat. I can't really imagine Kempy hunked over a little barbecue cooking us a burry roll.
Why not though? You got to think. I'd
love that.
It's essentially ration packs. It's packets of boil in the bag and pour some water in. Little jet boil cookers. That's what you carry. Little gas canisters. They're called. I imagine we use.
It's just really shit food, to be honest.
It's eating to live. Absolutely, it's just getting enough calories in a day to function. Where we get it from and what exactly we use and who we use is still to be decided, as Martin says. So if any of the millions of listeners out there own a dried food company, or are nutritionists, or know anybody in that sort of circle, please do get in touch. Numbers on the end of the show.
Yeah, that's right. Put that in the podcast notes. Will adapting to that sort of regime of diet be featured in your sort of prep, or are you just going to wait till the big day before you spring it on yourselves? You're not going to.
Well, I mean, as I think Rob alluded to earlier, we're gonna be doing a few training rows, multi-day training rows. So it will come in that. But to be honest, I can't see myself sitting in my flat in Queens Road East eating dehydrated food.
You did that for the first 2 years.
There's no real way to prep yourself for being hungry, tired, or anything like that. It's going to happen. There's no point being. You don't get ready for it. You don't perform better by being hungry and tired for 3 weeks before you get there, thinking, "Oh, now I know what it's like." We'll be going into this as heavy as is allowed. I'll go with that.
Oh, I see. You're going to
Thank you, Edmund Rolson, for your Dobros pizzas.
Shout out to the Dobros.
Shameless plugs are flowing thick and fast here on episode 8 of The Horse, of course. We're talking to Martin Muller, Rob Lennox, Matt Bell, and Grant Kemp, They are east, rows west, and they're going on this world's toughest row 508 days from now. Okay, staying with, we talked there about the being unable to prepare for the mental toughness. So there's the physical, there's the spiritual, there's the nutritional, then there's the mental side, and just, so first of all, it's going to be a process, as I understand, of 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that seems to be the generally accepted principle, the most efficient way to get from point A to point B. I think don't fix what ain't broke.
Okay, and then the guys that are off, what are they doing?
Sleeping. Just on that too, you're not two guys aren't changing at a time. It's one guy changing at a time, so you stagger it. So you end up not rowing with one guy. I've shotgun Kempy.
Yeah. Basically trying not to kill each other for 30 plus days.
You get sick of that zit on the back of the bloke in front of you. Just pop it, will you?
That's exactly it, though. So we did come up with that sort of. I'm still trying to figure out how you have 4 people on a boat, right? 2 are resting, and you swap one guy, and then the other guy doesn't end up rowing longer than he should or shorter than he should. So it doesn't make any sense to me.
I'll draw you a picture with crayons, Kempy.
So yeah, so they talk like this as if it's some simple maths, but it doesn't make any sense. This is the big problem. So but yeah, as Martin said, so generally the boat will be being rowed all the time, pretty much.
Yeah,
unless it's like a hurricane or.
Well, I saw Boozer was pretending to work earlier and actually just searching YouTube for videos of people rowing the Atlantic.
I wanted to humiliate you.
He showed me a video of what they called a hurricane, but this was the 4 mums from Yorkshire doing it. And they've been locked in their cabin for about 16 days just having a kip. I was like, we'll be bloody rowing through that. You asked what we're doing those 2 hours off. Martin said sleep, which is obviously a large part of it. But every time you come off the oars, you're wet. You need feeding. You've got to take care of your jobs. That might be navigation. It might be cleaning down the solar panels. It might be sorting something out. Something might need fixing. There's not just off the oars, lie down, go to sleep. You're not going to sleep 12 hours a day.
You hear that, Kempy?
Yeah. We're going to learn that in these sort of situations, it's very important that there's injury prevention, there's looking after any sort of cuts and abrasions, things like that you will inevitably have on your hands and possibly your rear end before Bellos says something rude. Yeah, those things are very important. You've got to maintain yourself in what is an austere environment. You've got to make sure you're in the best shape you can possibly be when you are being just steadily degraded over time. So you've got to feed yourself, sleep, and whatever bits you've got to get done in your 2 hours off, however you choose to apportion that, as well as getting enough sleep.
Do you think you have an advantage there with your military training, the approach to the sort of mental toughness of just getting up and going again? I mean, you get that in rugby, but I mean, this was a profession.
I suppose I hope so. I guess I'll find out. I suppose to an extent, yes, I hope. Having done some challenging things for a longer period of time is the only difference. Like you say, rugby, these guys have played rugby at a high level. They've pushed themselves.
I think Rob's being very humble. I think probably the military side of things is probably, from everyone we've spoken to pretty much, having that sort of regimented military approach to things is probably the most important thing.
Mm.
Well, hopefully during training that can come out and be an advantage to all of us. But yeah, hopefully. But we'll all learn what it's like to be tired and wet and frustrated in the training.
The only guy who's actually got proper experience with the lack of sleep must be Matt Bell in his job. The man gets there at 5 a.m. and he's not leaves at ridiculous hours.
I've seen you out on a night in one shot. You know how to deal with that.
Hey mate, there's a difference between sleeping and just being awake, right? So just let's leave one shy stories.
Hey, look, well, I've got 3 kids. I haven't slept more than 2 hours in 9 years,
exactly.
but you won't catch me on a boat.
Spot on.
So you bunk down at the ends of the boat there, and you try and get a kit when you can. Is there any way you can sort of train for that sort of just tiredness and sleep deprivation, and the mind starts playing tricks, doesn't it? It's illusions and...
Other than what you've just alluded to, I guess we could all have a kid in the meantime.
Yeah.
But no, like I think it's the same. It's what I was alluding to earlier. You can't train yourself really to not get a decent kit for 30 days. You can't store sleep, so just get on with it. You'll be tired, and that's where the mental side of it comes in. It's just a mindset. You can just try and stay in that moment, one stroke after the other, and we'll get through it. And when you're having a bad day or when you're having a bad moment, your mates around you, and, you know, we've chosen to do this because we're 4 good mates, and they'll pull you through those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. What sort of weather can be encountered across that stretch of water? Is it, I mean, are we talking at that time of year, is it going to be cold? What's the sort of water temperature? Is there, you know, weather situations, hurricanes, stuff like that? How big a factor is the weather?
Yeah, Boozer, there's a reason that the race is conducted at this time of the year. For all intents and purposes, if you had to push the boat off at La Gomera, not row a stroke, you would end up generally in the vicinity of Antigua, probably more than a month later. But yeah,
like complete shit as well.
But yeah, the current and the winds and everything carry you in that direction. It's also the calmest weather of the year generally. That's not, I mean, the ocean is pretty unpredictable. So it being the calmest doesn't mean there isn't a likelihood of storms or terrible weather. The Fortitude 4, 36 hours outside of Antigua and on track to, you know, get near the world record. They got capsized twice in the space of, I think, 12 or 24 hours. In a massive storm. They were talking sort of 2-3 story high waves. So there is always the propensity for bad weather. It is the ocean, but largely speaking, temperatures should be pretty good to pretty hot. The water is glorious to swim in. I worked on yachts for a couple of years, especially most specifically around the Caribbean, and around that time I can tell you the water is absolutely glorious.
Yeah, I think just to chime in there, a lot of the teams doing this are from the UK. I would say the majority are from the UK, and they're the largest chunk of their serious training out on the sea will be done autumn to winter in the UK, where the sea is anything but glorious. And a lot of people, reading people's accounts of this, you know, everyone who's done it seems to have written a blog or a book or something. They weren't prepared for how hot it was going to be along portions of this route.
But come on, Robbie, you're British. Like,
I'm not saying I'm not going to have the factor 50
21 degrees for you is like, oh my God, I can't take it anymore. Please turn the aircon on, put me in the cabin.
I can see arguments about the sun cream already.
Yeah, so hopefully being in Hong Kong with our training here will be a little bit more used to that heat. And also changeable weather. You know what it's like in Hong Kong. If we go out for 4 days on this rowing boat, there's every chance in Hong Kong we're going to experience 4 seasons in those 4 days.
What are you sort of planning, you know, provisionally at this stage? What do you think's the longest training exercise you're going to do, and where would you do it out of Hong Kong? Would you go into international waters or just round around Hong Kong Island until you all got dizzy? Philippines?
TBC on that. Well, yeah, we did talk about it actually. No, I think it would just be a case of, it's not necessarily about going somewhere on these training roads. It's very much more about just being on the boat, learning how to operate it. If we only row a few kilometers, a few miles a day, it's not so important that we reach a destination. It's just about learning how to operate the boat, learning what it's like to just be on the boat all the time, sit there for 2 hours, going back and forth, all these bits and bobs. So that's far more important than reaching a destination. But yeah, we'll that's something we're going to have to work out, and hopefully the guys at the Royal Hong Kong Yacht Club will be able to help us out with that. Guys with some rowing experience, some ocean rowing experience, key. So yeah, we'll see.
All right, then let's get some final sort of words. Then let's go around the table. What are you most looking forward to, and most not looking forward to, whether it be the event or the training or anything like that? What are you most inspired or fired up about, and what are you most sort of anxious or concerned or not looking forward to? Let's say, apart from looking at Kempy's naked bottom each day as he has a regular bowel movement over the side. I can say that because he's gone to the toilet.
Call it a day.
So long as it's not irregular, I'll be fine.
Yeah, personally, sort of what I'm most looking forward to is it's just the physical and mental challenge, like that, putting yourself in a position that you've never been in. I've, as the guys have mentioned, I played professional rugby, and it is a challenge physically, but you go home and sleep in your bed every night. This is 30 days of just something we would have never experienced. What I'm not looking forward to is the sort of getting to the start line. That is the most challenge for me. That's the most challenging. There's a lot of admin work involved. We've got to get the boat sorted. We've got to get sponsorship sorted. We've got to there's obviously the charity stuff. It's just a hell of a lot of legwork to get done before we actually get to the start line.
Yep. Cool. Rob?
Most looking forward to, I don't know exactly how to put it. I think it's either when I can no longer see the shore behind, or when I can see it again when I get to the far end. There's something about that moment when you are just completely in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with three of your best mates. And it's entirely up to you guys to make it work. And I think there's something quite special about that. There's no internet, there's no phones, there's no nothing. There's no one else. There's the four of you and the Atlantic Ocean and your little rowing boat. So yeah, there's something about that perspective that really appeals. What am I least looking forward to? I think Martin's certainly onto something with the legwork to get there, but I think for me those first few hours, or that first couple of days where we're going to probably be seasick, because apparently everyone is. You're going to be sore, you're going to be tired, you're not in routine, so it hasn't become the norm. I think those first couple of days are going to be fairly challenging.
Yeah, it's going to take a while to build some sort of momentum, a bit of rhythm, as you say, as Grant Kemp returns from the bathroom. We were just talking about Grant Kemp in the bathroom. Matt Bell, what are you most looking forward to and not looking forward to any time over the next 508 days or the following 30-odd?
Yeah, I think what's nobody's mentioned yet is just rowing into bloody Nelson Harbour and finishing the thing. We've all watched some of the videos and things, and just it's difficult to describe, but when you see in pictures the absolute elation and relief on the faces of these teams that finish, obviously again, the mental and physical challenge and pushing myself, yes, but you sort of can imagine after pushing to that limit what it must feel like to actually complete it and feel that relief and joy and feeling of accomplishment. I think, touch wood, we bloody finished the thing now. And then from a challenge perspective, I think Martin, what possibly not going to enjoy, what Martin alluded to is there is a hell of a lot of legwork. It's none of the four of us have ever done anything like this before, so it's going to be 18 months of every single step of the way. It's going to be something new and something we're going to have to teach ourselves to do, which, am I fearful of that? I'm not sure, but it's certainly a massive challenge. And then I think you fear the unknown. So to Rob's point, those first couple of days are going to be pretty terrible. We've also heard that boredom's an absolutely massive thing. So I don't do too well with boredom. So the middle of the race will probably I'm also looking a bit fearfully towards. But yeah, just really looking forward to the whole challenge.
Yeah, I think I Spy will probably run out of momentum after the first day, something beginning with S. What about you, Kempy? What are you really inspired about this trip? What are you most looking forward to and most dreading?
I guess probably, I think I said it the last time we did a promo shoot the other day. I think I said it there as well. It's probably just being, like Matt said, it's just being alone. You get the first 3 days, it's like, oh, I'm so keen, look at me, I'm rowing. And then I think from day 3 to day 27 is just going to be an absolute, slog. A lot of the guys say that, they're not that stressed about the physical side, but that is one of the parts for me that's like, I'm like, shit, I'm going to sleep 2 hours. I'm going to row 2 hours. I mean, the longest I've ever rowed on a rowing machine, and that's in an air-conditioned gym with a cafeteria attached to it, was...
That's key.
was about 30 minutes, and it was some punishment I had to do. But I mean,
and that was only 500 meters.
Yeah. Well, similar pace that I'm probably going to set to Rob's dismay in the actual race. But yeah, I'd probably say that, I mean, challenge-wise, the physical side... And then, obviously, Matt said it already, just how cool it will be to friends, family, when we arrive, because we are going to finish. I don't care if we have to go 65 more days. We will row in there somehow. However, but yeah, that's the finishing aspect. And obviously looking forward to just, the challenge. Okay.
Now, as with my Valley hat on now, I've got to ask this because with recruitment in mind for next season, are you going to get back for the grand final?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I will be there on the sideline with a beer
in a wheelchair,
and about 20 kilograms underweight.
Okay, good. So that's right. We need a couple of locks, a prop, and we need a new rugby convener. Fantastic. Hey, well, look, it's been great talking to you guys. I think it's incredibly inspiring. I'm fully supportive, and just sort of reading and researching about this over the last few days has opened my eyes up as well. It's inescapable how huge it is. It's just like if you put on a scale of 1 to 100 of what you've done before, let's say the Talisker Whiskey Atlantic Challenge was 100. Where have you been on that scale, towards 100, and I'd be struggling to get out of the teens or the single digits. It's that epic and that inspiring that you're going to have massive support, not only from Valley, but, from all your networks and friends, and that's just going to grow over 508 days, and it's going to be a groundswell, and you'll be carrying all those sort of hopes and, the pride of all those people, your family. It's going to be massive, and you'll be pushed along by that, no doubt. And look, I'm suspecting that the stories will be, different when we can reconvene in a couple of years, almost 18 months or whatever it is. You'll have too many stories. We'll have to do this in a mini-series sort of thing. Any parting comments, boys, to supporters out there, how they can get behind you and support you and things like that?
Just from my side, Boozer, as you mentioned there, the support of our networks and sponsors to come and that kind of thing. Yeah, it's very early days yet, but we've already received some overwhelming support from some institutions and friends and family, and just to those people, thank you already. It really been quite overwhelmed and surprised by people's generosity and what they've been able to contribute. But yeah, just looking forward to it, and we've done a bit of a photo shoot and some filming. Hopefully in the next few weeks you'll see the website launched and a bit more of a social media presence, and you'll have the details on how to follow us, how to get in touch, and how to support.
Absolutely. I'll just echo that and say, it's the four of us that'll be in that boat going across the ocean, but it'll be way more people than that, and a much wider team that contributes to getting us just to the start line. And the thought of, like you said, Boozer, the pride, you know, the fact that it's our reputations and all that on the line that carries us across. So thank you to everyone in advance for your help. And we look forward to coming back.
Yeah, and then also just lastly from me, we'll drop a link to our various social media accounts in the podcast. If you could give those a follow, these things are all run by algorithms and that sort of thing. So if you can give us a follow and a few likes, that would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess just parting comments, right? I know some of the boys said it there. It might be us rowing the actual boat, but there's a big family behind us. You look at the Everest Challenge, how people got behind that, Boozer. That's exactly the sort of, we want people to be excited. We want people to follow us. We want people to be like, yeah, those are those are my teammates. Those are my Valley family. Those are my boys. So, and hopefully we win the whole entire thing. And then I'll throw an almighty party down in the valley. So yeah, get behind us. It's not going to be easy, but yeah, we're relying on you just as much as I guess you guys are relying on us to do well.
All right, great final comments. So just wrapping up here from the studio. The horse, of course, probably our best episode yet. It's inspiring, and we'll be following these fellas. Maybe do a follow-up episode next year as we get closer to the event. Thanks for listening, and as always, thanks to Société Générale and all our sponsors. Until the next episode,